Hello and welcome to this edition of Going Public. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. You know, we always like to find out things that are happening here in the parish. Very few know more about what's happening with Terrebonne Parish than our guest that comes back time and again, Chris Pulaski. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Of course, Chris is Terrebonne Parish Planning and Zoning Director. And so, Chris, I know one of the things that people are concerned about, I think about it, I've had a camper and I've thought about what it must be like to still be with some temporary housing. Let's spend a little time talking about where we are with that.
Sure. So after the storm, we had two temporary housing programs that went into effect. The first one was the state's IDA sheltering program. Those are the travel trailers that you see around the parish. Most of them are on private properties. There's a few group sites. There's the one out by Highway 311 and Highway 90, and then there's a few in some of the existing RV and mobile home parks.
Right.
But that was the first time the state had ever attempted a program like that. It was intended to fill the gap from the time of the event until the FEMA program gets deployed. They saw a need for it after Laura and Delta over in Lake Charles, so they implemented it here.
Well, with the help of this administration.
Oh, absolutely.
You guys were an integral and meaningful part of why that took place.
Exactly.
I know you and Gordy never talk about that, but that's why that took place. So I want people to really understand and know that it was because of that. Y'all got that inaugural program that had never been done before, and it started in Terrebonne Parish after Ida.
That's right, and we pushed hard.
Yes.
And we're still working with the state on improving that program for the next time, right?
Somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Right.
Hopefully
Yes,
somewhere
hopefully
else.
somewhere else. Right.
So that program, again, those are the travel trailers that you see. There's a little over 800 units still on private properties, and then there's about 120 that are in 97, I think, out at Rebecca Village on Highway 90 and 311, and the rest are in the parks. That program is shutting down on May 31st.
Right.
Now, for those people who are still in a situation where they have no other alternative, I mean, the state does have case managers for each of those folks, and they're working with them, and they may, on a case-by-case basis, take a look, and maybe somebody gets an extension. It's really up to the state.
Okay. And
now,
through those case managers.
Correct. So, I mean, they've been working with those occupants since day one, checking on them, making sure that they're taking steps to find themselves permanent housing solution. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, they may have no other option, and nothing is available. I mean, we have a shortage of rental housing here, affordable housing shortage. So, and vouchers, I mean, we've had vouchers available, but for whatever reason, a lot of people haven't been taking advantage of that. Chiefly, I'm sure, because they don't want to have to leave Terrebonne Parish.
Right. And that's what that voucher would mean. They would have to take up residence somewhere else.
They would basically get it's like a Section 8 housing, but it's outside of the Terrebonne Parish area, because we didn't have any
Right.
available.
Right.
And I'm told, and speaking with Housing and Human Services, Kelly over there, the director, she's let me know that Lafourche Parish and City of Thibodaux are opening up some of their vouchers as well. So people may be able to utilize them. So they would need to contact the City of Thibodaux or Lafourche Parish. So that's good that our neighbors are helping us.
Yes.
But that program ends on May 31st. At the same time, we have the FEMA direct housing program. Those are the mobile home units. Now, they're not your traditional 16 by, say, 75 or 82. They're more like about 40 foot long.
Right.
And then they have that little outbuilding behind them, which is a fire suppression system. Most of those are also on private sites, in people's driveways or in their yard or whatever. That program is scheduled to end at the end of August, basically at the 2-year mark.
Okay.
Now, it's possible that program could get extended another 6 months. FEMA extends their programs after the first 18, then they do it in 6-month blocks.
Okay. 6-month intervals.
Lake Charles, Calcasieu Parish still has their FEMA direct housing program running right now, and they're coming up on 3 years. Now, what's changing about that one is that up until now, well, let me start over. Up until 18 months after the 18-month mark, that's when those occupants were living rent-free. After 18 months, they had to start paying rent on those units. Now, FEMA reduced the rate from the fair market value that HUD had set at a national level down to the bare minimum of $50 a month.
Okay.
And that's what they've been paying. Now, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, FEMA issued a release explaining that those occupants are going to have to start paying the rent at that HUD level, which, depending upon the size of your unit, could be anywhere from $600 a month to as much as $1,400 a month.
Wow.
And a lot of these folks are low to moderate income, on a fixed income. There's no other options from a affordable housing standpoint, like we talked about a minute ago. So the parish, through GOSEP, requested that they keep that $50 reduced rate. So we can't ask that direct of FEMA. Our request comes from the parish level to the state, and then the state takes it to FEMA.
Right.
So that's happened. We've requested it, so we're just waiting on the response from FEMA. Now, right now, the $50 is set to jump up on July 1st is when it would become effective, but hopefully we'll get that sorted out before then.
Right.
And it'll be through the end of that program. So right now it's the end of August, but it could be extended another 6 months.
Okay.
And that FEMA direct housing, I mean, those are HUD approved mobile homes. So they're a bit safer than the travel trailers that the state had. The state went out and strapped them down and stuff, but it's not really meant to handle hurricane force winds. So, as we're coming up on hurricane season, Earl Hughes and they're tracking where these people are so that we can make sure we get them to a safe location.
Right, and it's just one of those things where we got to make sure that they're available. Even a strong tropical storm, we are going to be, and according to Earl, we're going to have available temporary sheltering for those people. And so we still know that there are a number of those. And again, we're coming up on some timelines where some decisions are being made. And so if anybody's watching out there and you're in one of those temporary homes and you're worried about what's happening, talk to your case manager, that person that you've been speaking with from the state. They are going to make a plan with and for you because that's the system.
That's right. And they have people here in town. I mean, the IDA sheltering program, that phone number has stayed the same throughout since day one. It's 844-268-0301. I mean, that's the number if your stove in your unit breaks or if you have a question about, a case management issue. But they also have people in offices in Terrebonne Parish daily. But
still.
Oh, yeah. And they go around to other locations. If they find out that a particular organization or some agency is going to be giving or doing a workshop or taking applications on some new program, those people are going to go to that location as well, so they can be there to ask questions or talk to people about their travel trailer or their temporary housing unit. So I know they were at the Civic Center today.
Right.
So they're on the lookout for that kind of stuff. And, we're always talking about temporary housing and the importance of that and how that's certainly benefited. And we've had a lot of people move out. I mean,
yes, we have.
We are, we had at one time we had over 2,000 of the state units in the parish, and now we're down to just over 1,000.
Right.
So that's a good improvement. But we also want to talk about our permanent housing and where we're going with that. I mean, I know we have more time on another segment, but just to jump into it straight away, I mean, we have our programs like the parish's reconstruction program, which is paid for through hazard mitigation money. And that's similar to the programs of the past where we elevated homes. We did a few reconstructions, but most of the storms in the past were water.
Right.
With Ida, it's just wind damage. It's total devastation. So we're looking at building new homes for these folks. So that's something that you can apply for by contacting our RAMP division at 873-6565. The state, of course, has their Restore LA program, where it's a reconstruction program, very, very similar to the one that we have, but we're trying to steer more people over to that.
Right.
Because they have a lot more options available than our reconstruction program does. And you can find out information online at restore.la.gov. The state has also put together a rental restore program. So landlords out there, I mean, they know we have a rental housing shortage. So there's that program. Again, restore.la.gov. And then here, I mean, I mentioned Kelly over at Housing and Human Services.
Right.
I mean, they've been working very hard over at Parkwood Place subdivision, working with some of the local nonprofits like Options for Independence.
Right.
Has built, I think, 15 homes out there now. Kelly is working on a program with another nonprofit to build, I believe it's 90 duplexes.
Wow.
Out there. Now, you know, they're really open to anybody who would qualify, but we certainly want to look to those folks who are former residents of the Bayou Towers. A lot of them are in those temporary FEMA and state units, so we want to make sure we get them housed as soon as we can.
Right. And so that's just a little update on both temporary and permanent housing. And we're going to talk a whole lot more about what's happening around the parish when we come back. So thanks for sticking with us, Chris. We always appreciate that. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. A whole lot more Going Public when we return.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Alford, your host for To Your Health with Terrebonne General Health System. Our weekly show provides the latest in healthcare specialties only offered by Terrebonne General. Join us each Wednesday at 7 p.m. to stay up to date with the latest innovations in health. Terrebonne General provides healthcare breakthroughs in cardiology, cancer care, women's health, health and wellness, and much more. You don't want to miss our next To Your Health. See you then.
In South Louisiana, storms are a way of life. Every storm poses a different threat, whether from flooding or hurricane-force winds. At All South Consulting Engineers, we help protect our people from these disasters. Before a storm, we work with our leaders to prevent catastrophic damage. After the storm, we help get the resources needed for rebuilding. We have helped our cities, parishes, and school boards recover over $2 billion to rebuild our community. We'll be here for the next one.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Pelican Waste and Debris is your local company. We don't just work here, we live here and understand the unique challenges that face our region. Our commitment to our community and customers and love for Louisiana keeps us motivated. Pelican meets every residential and commercial service need, offering roll-off, front-load, and compactor services, ideal for hotels, restaurants, apartments, construction or industrial sites, and much more. We also make recycling simple and cost-efficient, offering single-stream recycling program options. We have set the highest standards for environmental protection, community engagement, and guaranteed client satisfaction. Visit pelicanwaste.net or call us at 985-873-9553 to save money with hassle-free service. Our team has over 100 years of experience, so we know how to make you happy. The sky is the limit, so fly with the Pelican.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Going Public. Again, your host, Keith Whiteside, joined by Chris Pulaski, Terrebonne Parish Planning and Zoning Director. Chris, thanks again for joining us. We were talking about some of the permanent housing, and there's lots of options for people to get help, and it seems like LA Restore is really the place that people should maybe start looking.
Right. I mean, the state has the widest variety of options available. So the website is restore.la.gov. They have individual assistance for their reconstruction program. They have rental assistance for landlords who are looking to rebuild any rental properties that they may have. But they also are familiar with our programs too. I mean, the Office of Community Development that heads all of that, they review and approve our programs as well. So if they see where somebody's going to have a better fit by going with one of the parish programs, then they'll steer them to us.
They'll just filter it through to you.
It's just making sure that we match up the person with the program that's going to best suit them. It'll go smoother for them. They'll be in their home faster. I mean, some of the Restore LA homes, I mean, they're building now. That program has really taken off. They even have mobile homes that they, if somebody was in a mobile home previously, they can be in a mobile home again through that program. But from the parish's standpoint, I mean, we have Parkwood Place subdivision. I know that was something that Parish President Dove was really looking forward to getting up and running. And Options for Independence has been a great partner, and building up to 15 homes in there. And then the parish is building or looking to partner up with a nonprofit to build 90 duplexes, but there's room for more.
Yeah, it's plenty of space.
And so this is just the start. We have a lot of folks who were in the Houma high rise or in Senator Circle that are in need of housing. You know, we talked in the previous segment about vouchers and how those are available, but they would require that you leave Terrebonne Parish for some of them. And, I'm glad to report that it's looking like Lafourche and City of Thibodaux may have some openings in their programs, which Terrebonne residents can, apply for. So that's very helpful. But, we know that housing is certainly one of the biggest concerns and one of the biggest areas of focus that we're going to be looking at over these years as we recover. I mean, it tops every list.
Right, for those. And those are some of the things, some of the good things that we have options for, some of the good news that people have to either utilize that voucher and go just next door, right there to Thibodaux, and still be close to your family, because nobody ever wants to leave Terrebonne Parish.
Right.
I mean, we just don't.
Right.
And my wife and I, as we try and do our 10-year plan, I don't want my 10-year plan to include ever leaving.
Yeah.
And so I know that feeling is like, but it's right there in Thibodaux, and are some good options as we have LA Restore and some of the programs here that kind of talk about what's best for people. So it's really exciting news about some permanent housing.
Right. And of course, we have continue our discussions with the folks at the state. I mean, I know we have next week we are having a update meeting with them, and we're going to be looking at a lot of the monies that are coming in through the Community Development Block Grant, disaster recovery, and that opens up a lot of doors. So we're going to be, of course, looking at housing options as part of that. It's not just infrastructure and economic development. You can't have either of those without housing as part of the discussion. So that's going to be coming up. So, and that is one of the things I also wanted to mention is we talk about our recovery planning, whether it's parish-wide or it's focused like on our Main Street. We're nearing completion on those drafts of our long-term recovery plan, as well as our Main Street corridor master plan. So we'll be going out to the public with those very soon. We'll need to have it, a couple of rounds of public meetings to get input into those drafts, and then that way we can take them from draft to final form. Right. So that's going to be happening. But, we have a lot of work going on around the parish. I mean, you've seen a lot of the improvements that are happening downtown. You see a lot of new construction, around the parish. And that's something that President Dove, is very proud of. In his tenure, we've taken the permit office and, everything is basically done in-house, which has been very helpful. I think by and large, it's been a great transition over. That was in 2018 when we started that. And then in 2019, 2020, just to help boost the economy in the area, we looked at waiving building permit fees for residential renovations and those kinds of things. So that was done. I mean, from a revenue standpoint, it's never really been a money grab for the parish. Okay. I mean, permit fees, especially the residential side of it for renovations and things like that, The reason for it is the need for a permit, period.
Right.
We have to cover some costs. We
Sure.
have our software and the people that we have out there doing the work. But so there's some minimal fees there. But when we assess the whole situation, we realize, well, we'll be really doing the parish a favor, because it will encourage people to go out. Maybe they'll do that project that they've been putting off, that home improvement, that detached garage, or whatever renovation they're doing, new bathroom, new kitchen. If they know that they're not going to have to pay permit fees, they still need a permit.
Right.
Still need
They
a
don't
permit.
have to pay a permit fee.
Correct. Now, we're talking about residential only, and it's residential renovations. So any residential new construction
That still has.
or an addition, you still have the permit fees. Trades, like your gas, your electric, your HVAC, mechanical, that's still a fee.
Right.
But you won't be paying a fee for your, bathroom remodel, or a detached garage, or a fence, or a swimming pool. You will pay trade permit fees for your swimming pool, but
Right.
the rest, there's no charge for that. Again, new residential and additions, yes, there is a fee.
But it also opens up that timeline as well. So
Right.
things happen a little bit faster when the resident is ready to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to, okay, well, I'm going to go and do this, and they know that they don't, maybe that's just enough encouragement where they can go out, get the permit. They're going to, the stores to buy the lumber and materials. They're hiring the contractors to do
Right.
the work. So from an economic development standpoint, it seemed to make more sense to do it. And that was in place before the storm.
Right. That's started in 18.
Right. So now, of course, here comes Ida, and we waived the repair fees for permits that are hurricane damage associated. Commercial or residential, doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's still in effect. The executive order that Parish President Dove had issued is still in effect through the end of August. We're kind of following the same 6-month increments that FEMA does.
Right. It just makes sense, right?
It
just
makes
to
it
do what
easier.
they're doing, right?
But again, it's got only for hurricane related damage, and believe me, we are looking to make sure. I'm
Right.
sorry, but your guest room addition was not part of hurricane damage.
You didn't have a guest room before, so no,
Right.
you didn't have damage there before.
Right. But
Right.
we're watching those kinds of things. But I think that's really not it hasn't been a big issue for us. But I think we're seeing our numbers in the permit office, are starting to balance out a little more. I mean, there are times when we might have an influx of one permit type or another, but we're getting down to pre-storm levels. Our turnaround times are pre-storm turnaround times, the
Wow.
5 to 10 business days.
Right.
Now that's, with everything present, sometimes permits take a little longer, but usually that's because we're waiting on like somebody to bring in their state fire marshal approval letter,
Right.
or maybe a Department of Health or some outside agency or special approval that might
Right.
need to take place. But we're seeing a lot of positives happen in Terrebonne Parish. But I mean, every time I come on, I mean, it's not something that's just going to wave a magic wand and it's all, pre-storm. It's going to take a while to recover.
And we've, as we approach this 2-year mark, we've made some remarkable strides. I mean, you
Yeah.
can compare us to some of the other areas where, as you mentioned, there's still some people 3 years later in some temporary housing, where we've moved forward much more quickly. And I think that's because of the fight, if you will, that we've been really, stepping up to the plate and asking for what we need and getting it.
Right. I mean, we've got over, I think, right at the last count, I think we had $220 million worth of project applications in consideration by either GOSEP, the state, or FEMA. So that's more than we've been allocated for sure.
Right.
But we know we're going to be allocated more money.
Right.
So we're going to keep adding projects to that
Correct.
because as time goes on, some projects get funded through other means, so they drop off the list. I mean,
Right.
it's always better to have more on their list of projects, and then we can pick and choose, because once they close the door, you can't add any more.
Right,
We can
right.
take projects out. Hey, FEMA, we got that one covered. Don't worry about that one. And then that frees up more money to go to some other program. But the last thing we're going to do is leave money on the table for some other, municipality or parish or community to pick up, because
Right.
somebody will.
Right, because we still need it. Got about a minute left. Anything we kind of want to recap or just let people know? Fees are still being waived for
hurricane damage, permit fees are still waived. But we also have pre-storm, we were waiving residential renovations. So, if you have questions about what that is, you can certainly go call the permit office at 985-873-6567. You can go online to mypermitnow.org. That's where you apply for permits. But again, we're seeing a lot of, construction, a lot of new things coming in. But, we still have a little recovery to go.
Yeah. And we'll keep doing it together, because that's what we do in South Louisiana, certainly here
That's right.
in Terrebonne Parish. And so, Chris, thank you so much for what you do, and thank you so much for the administration and what they're doing and fighting for. We appreciate it as always. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, and that will do it for this particular edition. We appreciate you joining us here on Going Public. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.